Yeah, yeah, beta. Yeah, internet was a little weak. All right. So once again, what is germ cells? What is germ cells forming by mitosis? Spermatogonia called as multiplication phase. What is spermatogonia enlarging to form primary spermatocytes called as growth phase? Is called as growth phase. And then we have the process in which primary spermatocytes undergo meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, and primary spermatocytes undergoing primary spermatocytes undergoing undergoing meiosis to form spermatids is called as maturation phase. Is called as maturation phase. So तीन phases हो गए आपके, तीन phases हो गए. Germ cells multiplying by mitosis to form spermatogonia is called as multiplication phase. Is called as multiplication phase. Spermatogonia undergoing enlargement to form primary spermatocyte is called as growth phase. So enlargement is called growth phase, and primary spermatocytes undergoing meiosis is called as maturation phase. So वापस से, what is mitosis called as? Multiplication phase. What is mitosis called as? Multiplication phase. What is enlargement of spermatogonia to form primary spermatocyte called? Growth phase. And what is primary spermatocyte undergoing meiosis to form spermatids called as? Maturation phase. ये याद रखना. Everybody understood this? If you have understood, put a thumbs up. Okay, great. Chalo. So this was it. This was simple. And then we go into the next part, female reproductive system. I don't think any doubts would be there. If you have it, you can let me know after the lecture. Now we go into the most important part of the lecture, the histology of the ovary. Now, ये ध्यान से सुनना, histology of ovary and the menstrual cycle. आपको इस बार नीट में menstrual cycle का एक क्वेश्चन आया था. Which I will explain you in more detail. So, let's understand first histology of the ovary. The ovary on a cut section shows it has two parts. The middle part is called as the medulla. Middle part is called as medulla, and surrounding it is the cortex. Surrounding it is the cortex. And at the periphery of the ovary, ovary के lining में there is a layer of cells which is called as germinal epithelium. What is the lining of cells called as? Germinal epithelium. तो ये जो cells है, what are these cells called as? Germinal epithelium. So these cells are called as germinal epithelium. And germinal epithelium is actually derived from, you may remember, प्राइमरी yolk sac. याद है गैस्ट्रुलेशन में प्राइमरी yolk sac बनता है. तो प्राइमरी yolk sac से बनता है germinal epithelium of the ovary. So जब बच्चा बन रहा है तो प्राइमरी yolk sac से बनता है germinal epithelium of the ovary. So germinal epithelium is a derivative of the primary yolk sac. ये याद रखना all of you. And what will germinal epithelium do? अब ध्यान से सुनना all of you. Germinal epithelium is 44XX. Female hai. So 44XX. It will undergo mitosis. It will undergo mitosis to form lots of 44XX cells, which are called as oogonia. What are these cells called as? Oogonia. So these are 44XX cells which are called as oogonia. Oogonia are 44XX. एनसीईआरटी के स्टेटमेंट्स बोल रहा हूं मैं, अभी ध्यान से सुनना. एनसीईआरटी के स्टेटमेंट्स. हाउ मेनी oogonia are formed? 2 million oogonia are formed at the age of 3 months. यानी फीटस के अंदर oogenesis स्टार्ट हो जाता है. स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस कब स्टार्ट होता है? स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस स्टार्ट्स एट प्यूबर्टी, 12 to 14 years of age. Which hormones help in spermatogenesis? FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH stimulates Leydig cells to give out testosterone. Testosterone also helps in spermatogenesis. तो याद रखना, FSH from the pituitary gland and testosterone given by Leydig cells under action of LH. Testosterone and FSH help in spermatogenesis. At what age? At the age of 12 to 14 years. लेकिन फीमेल के अंदर oogenesis starts not at puberty, but at the age of 3 months, when the fetus is still inside the uterus. तो ये किसकी ओवरी हम लोग दिखा रहे हैं? फीटस की ओवरी, फीटस की. और फीटस की ओवरी में फीटस किससे बना? जाइगोट से बना मोड्यूला, मोड्यूला से बना ब्लास्टुला, ब्लास्टुला से बना गैस्ट्रुला, और गैस्ट्रुला में 3 लेयर है, एक्टोडर्म, मीजोडर्म, एंडोडर्म. उसमें मीजोडर्म से बनती है ओवरी. मीजोडर्म से क्या बनी? ओवरी. और गैस्ट्रुला में प्राइमरी योक सैक बनता है, और प्राइमरी योक सैक से बना जर्माइनल एपिथीलियम. सो प्राइमरी योक सैक से बना जर्माइनल एपिथीलियम. सो जर्माइनल एपिथीलियम किससे बना? प्राइमरी योक सैक से. एंड कौन से मंथ में? थर्ड मंथ ऑफ फीटस. थर्ड मंथ ऑफ फीटस the germ cells undergo mitosis to form cells 44XX, which are called as oogonia. How many oogonia? 2 million oogonia are formed in each ovary. 2 million oogonia. And what do these oogonia do? ध्यान से सुनना all of you. oogonia, if you remember, अभी मैं पूछ रहा हूं आपको. Can somebody tell me what did spermatogonia do to become primary spermatocyte?
Increase in size.
Shripad?
Increase in size.
Increase in size. Growth. तो जैसे प्राइमरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट increases in size, growth to form primary oocyte. Sorry, spermatogonia. I'm so sorry. Spermatogonia increases in size to form primary spermatocyte. Similarly, oogonia, like spermatogonia, increases in size, does not multiply. Who multiplied? Germinal cells. Germinal cells multiply. Germinal cells undergo mitosis. to form oogonia. Oogonia. But what do oogonia do? Increase in size. And what do they increase in size to form? They increase in size to form primary oocytes. तो ये बड़ा सा स्ट्रक्चर क्या है? Primary oocyte. So once again, what has oogonia done? Oogonia has enlarged. Oogonia has enlarged to form primary oocyte. Has formed enlarged to form primary oocyte. And then ध्यान से germinal epithelium के कुछ cells, germinal epithelium के कुछ cells undergo mitosis to form cells which are called as egg cord. What is the collection of cells called? Egg cord. And egg cord के cells surround the primary oocyte. Egg cord cells surround the primary oocyte. And primary oocyte is now surrounded by egg cord cells, which is called as a primordial follicle. Which is called as a primordial follicle, which is not given in the NCERT. You may remember it is called as primary follicle. When you will go into MBBS, you will understand that सबसे पहले कौन सा follicle बनता है? Primordial follicle. और primordial follicle enlarges to form primary follicle. But we will follow NCERT. NCERT में primordial follicle नहीं दिया है. So what is oocyte surrounded by follicular cell called? We will remember directly primary follicle. So which is the first stage of histology of ovary? Primary oocytes surrounded by follicular cells. What is the structure called? Primary follicle. You don't remember primordial follicle. You remember primary follicle. And primary follicle will remain as it is. By the way, ये primary follicle कब बने? Third month of pregnancy, third month of fetus, and from third month, the primary follicle के अंदर the primary oocyte will get arrested. तो अब तक क्या क्या हुआ? ध्यान से सुनना. Germinal epithelium underwent mitosis to form oogonia, like spermatogenesis. Germinal cells underwent mitosis to form spermatogonia. यहाँ germinal epithelia form oogonia by mitosis. Then oogonia undergo enlargement to form primary oocyte. Oogonia enlarged to form primary oocyte. What is that phase called? Growth phase. By the way, what is germinal epithelium undergoing mitosis to form spermatogonia called? Multiplication phase. याद है ना? Germinal cell forming spermatogonia is called multiplication phase. Similarly, germinal cells forming oogonia by mitosis is called multiplication phase. Multiplication phase के बाद कौन सा phase आता है? Growth phase. Growth phase. तो growth phase में क्या होगा? oogonia undergo growth phase, and growth phase से क्या बनेगा? Primary oocyte. Growth phase से क्या बनेगा? Primary oocyte. What is growth phase followed by?
Maturation phase.
Maturation phase.
Maturation phase, meiosis. Growth phase is followed by maturation phase, meiosis. So primary oocyte has to undergo meiosis to form secondary oocyte and then ovum. But golden words. Primary oocyte starts undergoing meiosis 1. तो मैच्योरेशन में स्टार्ट हो जाता है 3rd मंथ में ही. But primary oocyte gets arrested in prophase 1. प्रोफेज 1 में प्राइमरी oocyte अरेस्ट हो जाता है. So does it undergo meiosis 1, meiosis 2? No. Primary oocyte meiosis 1 का फर्स्ट फेज कौन सा होता है? प्रोफेज 1. ये तो याद है कि नहीं सबको? तो प्राइमरी oocyte meiosis 1 फर्स्ट स्टेज में ही अरेस्ट हो जाता है. और फर्स्ट स्टेज में अरेस्ट हो जाता है एंड प्राइमरी फॉलिकल विल रिमेन एज प्राइमरी फॉलिकल. तो प्राइमरी फॉलिकल कब बने? प्राइमरी फॉलिकल बने 3rd मंथ ऑफ प्रेगनेंसी फीटस के अंदर. उसके बीच में कौन है? प्राइमरी oocyte. प्राइमरी oocyte के बाजू में कौन है? फॉलिकुलर सेल्स. एंड व्हाट इज द स्ट्रक्चर कॉल्ड एज? प्राइमरी फॉलिकल. और प्राइमरी फॉलिकल के बीच में कौन है? प्राइमरी oocyte. What is primary oocyte trying to undergo? Meiosis 1. But meiosis 1 के prophase 1 में it undergoes cell division arrest. So वो cell division बंद हो जाता है. It gets arrested in cell division. Have you all understood this, all of you? So what is arrested? Prophase 1 is arrested. And primary oocyte remains as primary oocyte. It does not become secondary oocyte. It gets arrested in the prophase. And now, what will happen? The baby will be born. Baby will be born. What is present in the baby's ovary? Primordial follicles or primary follicle by the NCRT. How many primary follicles? 2 million. If you remember, oogonia were 2 million. तो primary follicle भी कितने हो गए? 2 million. But golden word, primary follicle start undergoing degeneration, and that degeneration is called as atresia. What is that degeneration called as? Atresia. And by the time a child is born, 2 million has reduced to become 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles. So कितने primary follicle रह जाएंगे? 60,000 to 80,000. What was the original number? 2 million. What have most of them undergone? Atresia. And from 2 million, what is the number now come down to? 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles. Now the child is born. And the child will grow. And till the age of 12 to 14 years, the primary follicle will remain primary follicle. Primary follicle grow ही नहीं होगा because it was arrested with primary oocyte in prophase 1. Prophase 1 में arrest हो गया है. And primary follicle remains as primary follicle. It does not enlarge. Till what age? 12 to 14 years of age. Then at 12 to 14 years of age, the girl reaches puberty. Hypothalamus starts giving out gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH, and pituitary gland starts giving out gonadotropin, FSH and LH, of which FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, नाम से मालूम पड़ रहा है, stimulates the follicle. Follicle stimulating hormone stimulates the primary follicle, and primary follicle will now enlarge in size and become secondary follicle. So what will primary follicle enlarge to form? Secondary follicle. Or secondary follicle further enlarges to form tertiary follicle, and tertiary follicle further enlarges to form Graafian follicle. So what is the sequence? Primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, Graafian follicle. Who will stimulate primary follicle? FSH. At what age? 12 to 14 years of age. When were primary follicles formed? Third month of pregnancy, fetus stage mein. But they got arrested. Primary oocyte got arrested in prophase 1. Then primary follicle remained as primary follicle. And when the child is born, the child will grow to 12 to 13 years of age. Then, under action of FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, the primary follicle will become secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, and Graafian follicle. Everybody clear? Now, not given in the NCERT, but I'm explaining you in more detail. I'm explaining you in more detail. So, ये है flat cells. ये है flat cell. What are these flat cells called? Follicular cell. What are the flat cell called? Follicular cell, which are surrounding the primary oocyte. Which are surrounding the primary oocyte. Then these flat cells become columnar. Flat cells become columnar. What do flat cell become? Columnar. And then the columnar cells break down. Columnar cells break down. And they form छोटे cells. Small cells. These small cells, not given in the NCERT, but you may remember, are called as membrana granulosa cell. What are the cells called as? Membrana granulosa cell. और अब ध्यान से सुनना, ये एनसीईआरटी में दिया है. ये एनसीईआरटी में दिया है. फ्लैट सेल को स्टिमुलेट किसने किया? एफएसएच ने. फ्लैट सेल को स्टिमुलेट किसने किया? एफएसएच ने. What did flat cell become? Columnar. Flat cell became columnar. Then FSH stimulates columnar cell, which breaks down to form small cells called membrana granulosa. ये समझ में आया? Now FSH stimulates further. तो FSH further stimulation करेगा. पर अभी तो छोटे सेल हो गए हैं. इतने छोटे सेल है. But FSH will stimulate further. So size of the follicle will increase. Follicle stimulating hormone stimulates further. So size of the follicle will increase. What will happen अगर ये follicle है और छोटे सेल्स है इसमें और FSH उसको स्टिमुलेट करता जाएगा? ये सेल ऑलरेडी इतने छोटे हो गए हैं कि इससे फर्दर सेल डिवीजन पॉसिबल नहीं है. तो इससे फर्दर सेल डिवीजन पॉसिबल नहीं है. तो जब सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल को एफएसएच स्टिमुलेट करेगा, एफएसएच विल स्टिमुलेट इट. व्हाट विल हैपन बिकॉज ऑफ फर्दर स्टिमुलेशन? फॉलिकल और भी बड़ा हो जाएगा. बट उसमें मेम्ब्रेना ग्रैन्युलोसा सेल डिवीजन नहीं कर रहे हैं. सेल डिवीजन बंद हो गया है. तो व्हाट विल हैपन?
Cavity
differentiate
will
into
form.
interna and externa.
कैविटी विल फॉर्म, तो एक कैविटी बन जाएगी। देखो ये सेल डिवीजन से हुआ, अब सेल डिवीजन बंद हो गया, तो सेल डिवीजन बंद हो गया लेकिन साइज ऑफ फॉलिकल इज इंक्रीजिंग, तो दैट विल लीड टू फॉर्मेशन ऑफ अ कैविटी, क्योंकि साइज बड़ा हो रहा है। तो ये है मेम्ब्रेना ग्रैनुलोसा सेल्स, मेम्ब्रेना ग्रैनुलोसा सेल्स है यहां पर, और बिकॉज साइज ऑफ फॉलिकल इज इंक्रीजिंग, zeal, you can't hear me beta, you have to do something about your structure. Zeal, I think it's clear to everybody beta, something wrong with your audio beta. Okay, please try to correct it. एक cavity बन जाएगी, that cavity is called as antrum. What is that cavity called? Antrum. And antrum gets filled with a fluid called as liquor folliculi. What does antrum get filled with? A fluid called as liquor folliculi. And this structure is called as tertiary follicle. So, what has primary follicle become? Secondary follicle. What has secondary follicle become? Tertiary follicle. प्राइमरी फॉलिकल में कौन से सेल थे? कॉलमनार। सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल में कौन से सेल्स है? छोटे छोटे सेल्स विच आर कॉल्ड मेम्ब्रेना ग्रैनुलोसा। एंड टर्शियरी फॉलिकल में क्या बनेगा? कैविटी। व्हाट इज द कैविटी कॉल्ड? एंट्रम। व्हाट इज द एंट्रम फिल्ड विथ? लिकर फॉलिक्यूलाई। ये आपके एनसीईआरटी का स्टेटमेंट बोल रहा हूं मैं। कौन से फॉलिकल में एंट्रम बनता है? टर्शियरी फॉलिकल में एंट्रम बनता है। नाउ आई हैव टॉट यू एंट्रम कैसे बनता है, वो नहीं दिया एनसीईआरटी में, बट यू रिमेंबर कि हाउ डिड एंट्रम फॉर्म? फर्स्ट देयर वर फ्लैट सेल्स, फ्लैट सेल बिकेम कॉलमनार, कॉलमनार ब्रेक डाउन टू फॉर्म छोटे छोटे सेल्स कॉल्ड मेम्ब्रेना ग्रैनुलोसा, फिर सेल डिवीजन स्टॉप्स। अब तक सेल डिवीजन हो रहा था, नाउ सेल डिवीजन स्टॉप्स, but FSH stimulates, and FSH stimulates the follicle will further enlarge, but cell division बंद हो गया है, तो it will form a cavity called antrum which gets filled with liquor folliculi. और ये कौन सा स्टेज है? टर्शियरी फॉलिकल। तो एंट्रम कौन से फॉलिकल में बनता है? जरूर याद रखना, एनसीईआरटी का स्टेटमेंट है ये। एंट्रम कौन से फॉलिकल में बनता है? टर्शियरी फॉलिकल में। एंट्रम कौन से फॉलिकल में बनता है? टर्शियरी फॉलिकल में। और गोल्डन वर्ड, गोल्डन, प्राइमरी oocyte was arrested. In what form was primary oocyte arrested? Prophase 1. In which follicle? Primary follicle. Primary follicle, which month of pregnancy? Third month of pregnancy. And then under action of FSH, the primary follicle became secondary follicle, secondary follicle became tertiary follicle. वो तो बराबर है। Importantly, अंदर क्या है? प्राइमरी oocyte। कौन से फेज में है प्राइमरी oocyte? प्रोफेज 1 में। एंड प्राइमरी oocyte इन द प्रोफेज 1, जब सेकेंडरी oocyte विल फॉर्म, सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल विल फॉर्म टर्शियरी फॉलिकल ना, टर्शियरी फॉलिकल में गोल्डन वर्ड, प्राइमरी oocyte goes from prophase 1 to metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, and completes karyokinesis, that is nuclear division, and cytokinesis. Does anybody remember? What does primary oocyte undergo meiosis to form?
Secondary oocyte.
Secondary oocyte.
Polar
body.
polar
First
body.
polar
First
body.
polar body.
and
First polar body.
polar body. So what does tertiary follicle have? Tertiary follicle has secondary oocyte with the first polar body. So what does tertiary follicle have? Secondary oocyte with the first polar body. And तो दो चीज याद रखना, रादर तीन चीज याद रखना, तीन चीज. एंड टर्शियरी फॉलिकल के बाजू में दो लेयर बन जाते हैं, दो लेयर बन जाते हैं. एंड इनर लेयर which is called theca interna and an outer layer called theca externa, of which who is stimulating tertiary follicle or all follicle? अब तक स्टिमुलेशन कौन कर रहा था फॉलिकल का?
FSH.
FSH.
So FSH will now stimulate theca interna, and theca interna will start giving out estrogen. Theca interna starts giving out estrogen. तो याद रखना, who releases estrogen? Theca interna of the tertiary follicle releases estrogen. हाँ या ना? Everybody clear? तो टर्शियरी फॉलिकल की तीन स्पेशलिटी हो गई. टर्शियरी फॉलिकल की तीन स्पेशलिटी हो गई. सबसे पहले एंट्रम इज फॉर्म्ड इन टर्शियरी फॉलिकल, जो एनसीईआरटी का स्टेटमेंट है. एंट्रम इज फॉर्म्ड इन टर्शियरी फॉलिकल, द प्राइमरी oocyte becomes secondary oocyte and first polar body. In other words, meiosis 1 gets completed in tertiary follicle and primary oocyte diploid has become secondary oocyte haploid and first polar body. So meiosis 1 is completed in tertiary follicle, and theca interna of the tertiary follicle under action of FSH. Theca interna under action of FSH starts giving out the hormone called as estrogen. So तीन स्पेशलिटी कौन सी हुई? Antrum filled with liquor folliculi, secondary oocyte with first polar body, and theca interna starts giving out estrogen. ये तीन स्पेशलिटी हो गई टर्शियरी फॉलिकल की. हाँ या ना? All of you clear? Now, what does tertiary follicle become? Graphian follicle. अभी ग्राफियन फॉलिकल में ध्यान से सेल डिवीजन तो बंद हो गया है. What are these cells called? Membrana granulosa. So how will the follicle enlarge in size? फॉलिकल में enlargement कैसे होगा?
Because of FSH.
Yeah, FSH will stimulate. But how will
Fluid filling in antrum.
internally enlarge?
Fluid filling in antrum.
Antrum. जो antrum था, the antrum will become wider and wider, और अंदर more and more liquor folliculi. तो antrum बड़ा बड़ा होता जाएगा और अंदर liquor folliculi और भी आता जाएगा. So what is this big follicle now called as? This big follicle with a huge antrum filled with a lot of liquor folliculi is called as Graafian follicle. This is called Graafian follicle. Anything else special about Graafian follicle? NCERT statement. Who will tell me? क्या तुम लोग एनसीईआरटी पढ़ते हो बेवकूफ लोग? इतना भी याद नहीं है.
It undergoes rupturing to release the ovum.
Ah, somebody just said it. Who said it? Zona pellucida develops in the Graafian follicle. Excellent. Sir, ये है secondary oocyte with first polar body. Secondary oocyte के अंदर होता है nucleus. Secondary oocyte के अंदर होता है nucleus. Nucleus के अंदर होता है DNA. DNA undergoes transcription to form mRNA. mRNA undergoes translation to form protein. And that protein comes out of the secondary oocyte to form a protein coat. To form a protein coat. And what is that protein coat called as? That protein coat is called as zona pellucida. Zona pellucida. तो zona pellucida कौन से फॉलिकल में बनता है? zona pellucida Graafian फॉलिकल में बनता है. याद रखना, एनसीईआरटी स्टेटमेंट बोल रहा हूं मैं आपको. zona pellucida कौन से फॉलिकल में बनता है? Graafian फॉलिकल में बनता है. दो ये एक्चुअली रॉन्ग है. एक्चुअली जब आप मेडिकल में जाओगे ना, आपको समझेगा zona pellucida actually develops in primary follicle. Zona pellucida actually develops in primary follicle. That is the real thing. But ये आपको याद नहीं रखना है, आपको एनसीईआरटी का स्टेटमेंट याद रखना है कि when is zona pellucida formed? Zona pellucida is formed in the Graafian follicle. You remember that. So neat point of view. Which follicle antral is formed?
Tertiary.
Which follicle secondary oocyte and first polar body are formed?
Tertiary.
Which follicle secretes estrogen?
Tertiary follicle.
Tertiary.
Follicle.
Theca interna of tertiary follicle.
Theca interna. Which follicle has zona pellucida in it?
Graafian follicle.
Follicle.
Graafian follicle. Which follicle has zona pellucida in it? Graafian follicle.
Graafian follicle.
All of you clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, Graafian follicle will further enlarge in size. Graafian follicle will further enlarge in size. But we will learn very soon. अब तक Graafian follicle को कौन stimulate कर रहा था? अब तक stimulate कर रहा था FSH. अब FSH के साथ साथ कौन stimulate करेगा? LH. And LH stimulates theca externa. वो दो लेयर थी ना, मैंने बताई आपको, theca interna and theca externa. Who stimulates theca interna? FSH. And what will theca interna give? Estrogen. Now, along with FSH, what else is released? LH. And LH will stimulate which layer? Theca externa. So now, Graafian follicle will rapidly increase in size. Graafian follicle will rapidly increase in size. And it will touch the covering. कौन सा covering?
Germinal epithelium. Ovary.
किसी को याद है? Ovary कौन सा लेयर होता है? Below germinal epithelium, if you remember. Anybody heard of it? Germinal epithelium के नीचे क्या होता है?
Vitelline membrane.
Tunica albuginea.
Tunica
Tunica
albuginea.
albuginea.
Good. याद है जर्माइनल एपिथेलियम के नीचे होता है ट्यूनिका. बाय द वे ये याद रखना, नाइस नीट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. टेस्टिस में ट्यूनिका एल्ब्यूजिनिया बाहर होता है, जर्माइनल एपिथेलियम अंदर होता है. सेमिनिफेरस ट्यूब्यूल के अंदर होता है जर्माइनल एपिथेलियम. बट ओवरी में उल्टा होता है, उल्टा. नीट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से पूछा गया है ये पहले. दैट नीट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से यू मे रिमेंबर दिस पॉइंट. There is what is present outside germinal epithelium and what is present below germinal epithelium? Tunica albuginea, which is the capsule of the ovary. Which is the capsule of the ovary. So, what is present outside germinal epithelium? What is present inside tunica albuginea, which is the capsule of the ovary? Which is the capsule of the ovary? Have you all understood this? All of you. Everybody. And ध्यान से ग्राफियन फॉलिकल को कौन से हार्मोन ने स्टिमुलेट किया? FSH and LH. FSH and LH. And FSH, LH, LH कौन से लेयर को स्टिमुलेट करती है? Theca externa. And theca externa, so Graafian follicle will enlarge and rupture by breaking which layer? By breaking tunica albuginea. तो tunica albuginea rupture हो जाएगा. Tunica albuginea rupture हो जाएगा. And just 1 second, guys. Yeah, sorry all of you. So the Graafian follicle will rupture. And what is given out by a Graafian follicle?
Secondary oocyte.
What is given out? Secondary oocyte along with the first polar body, and surrounding it, what protein layer is present?
Zona
Zona
pellucida.
pellucida.
pellucida. और उसके ऊपर छोटे छोटे सेल्स रह जाते हैं, elongated cells, which are remnants of the membrana granulosa. ये जो membrana granulosa cells याद है? तो here we have secondary oocyte with first polar body, surrounding it zona pellucida, जो अभी अभी ग्राफियन फॉलिकल में बना है, और उसके ऊपर कुछ तो membrana granulosa के सेल रह जाते हैं. Does anybody know what are these cells of membrana granulosa?
Corona
called?
radiata.
Radiata.
Corona radiata. And these are given out, and what is that mechanism called as? Ovulation. इसे क्या कहते हैं? Ovulation. So ovulation होता है. So which are the two hormones responsible for ovulation? FSH and LH. So दो hormone ना. Who was acting on all the follicle? On all the follicle was acting FSH. And who acted on theca externa of the
LH.
LH. So how many hormones are responsible for ovulation?
Two.
Two. Which are the two hormones responsible for ovulation?
FSH
And LH.
LH.
After ovulation is over na, FSH becomes less. FSH becomes less. but LH level will increase. LH level will increase. And LH will act on ruptured Graafian follicle. अभी ग्राफियन फॉलिकल रप्चर हो गया है तो उसमें थोड़ा सा ब्लीडिंग होता है. ग्राफियन फॉलिकल रप्चर हो गया है, उसमें ब्लीडिंग होता है. एंड दिस इज रप्चर्ड ग्राफियन फॉलिकल विद ब्लड इन इट. क्योंकि कोई भी स्ट्रक्चर बॉडी में रप्चर होगा तो उसमें ब्लड जमा हो जाएगा. एंड दिस स्ट्रक्चर इज नाउ कॉल्ड एज कॉर्पस hemorrhagicum. What is the structure called? Corpus hemorrhagicum. Corpus hemorrhagicum. So, what does ruptured Graafian follicle become? Ruptured Graafian follicle will now become corpus hemorrhagicum. What does corpus hemorrhagicum have in it? Blood. Corpus hemorrhagicum has in it blood. All of you with me so far? Corpus hemorrhagicum has in it blood. Which hormone was acting on Graafian follicle? FSH and LH. After ovulation, FSH will become less, but LH level will increase. LH will increase, and LH, luteinizing hormone, acts on blood. Luteinizing hormone acts on blood and converts corpus hemorrhagicum into a yellow color body called as corpus luteum. So which hormone, sir? LH has acted on blood and it has converted corpus hemorrhagicum into corpus luteum. Yeah, now corpus hemorrhagicum has become corpus luteum under action of which hormone? LH. LH converts corpus hemorrhagicum into corpus luteum. And what is corpus luteum full of? Chalo, you are done it on hormones.
Lipids.
Lipids. If you remember, estrogen and progesterone are chemically steroids, fats. याद है ये हार्मोन में किया है. So, what has LH converted? LH has converted red blood cell into lipid cells, cholesterol cells. And what are the cholesterol cells called as? Luteal cells. And cholesterol cells or luteal cells form a structure called as corpus luteum. So which hormone converts corpus hemorrhagicum into corpus luteum? LH converts corpus hemorrhagicum into corpus luteum. Are you all with me? And what will corpus luteum secrete? Corpus luteum secretes both estrogen
Progesterone and estrogen.
and progesterone. Corpus luteum secretes both estrogen and progesterone. So, y'all tell me, estrogen कितनी बार secrete हुआ?
Twice.
2 times.
Estrogen was given by theca interna under action of FSH. So that was the first time that estrogen was secreted. Second time, estrogen is secreted by the corpus luteum under action of LH. O, FSH, theca interna, tertiary follicle, estrogen. LH, corpus luteum, second time estrogen. So estrogen कितनी बार रिलीज होता है? 2 times. हाँ, corpus luteum gives out progesterone, and progesterone is secreted only one time. Corpus luteum secretes progesterone. So progesterone is secreted only one time. Progesterone सिर्फ एक बार, estrogen 2 बार. And golden word, ध्यान से सुनना मेरी बात, ध्यान से सुनना मेरी बात. Ovary has released ovum. Where will ovum go from ovary?
Fallopian tube.
Fallopian tube.
Into fallopian tube. Ovum will go into fallopian tube, and ovum is there in the fallopian tube. Suppose a sperm comes and fuses with it. Suppose a sperm comes and fuses with it. So what will it form? Zygote. It will form zygote. It will form zygote. Then the corpus luteum will remain as it is. And corpus luteum will keep on secreting progesterone and estrogen, of which mainly कौन सा हार्मोन सिक्रीट होगा? प्रोजेस्टेरॉन. और थोड़ा सा क्या सिक्रीट होगा?
Estrogen.
Of which main हार्मोन कौन सा है? प्रोजेस्टेरॉन. Main हार्मोन is progesterone. Progesterone secreted by corpus luteum acts on the uterus, on the endometrium, and progesterone maintains the endometrium. Progesterone maintains the endometrium. तो endometrium rupture नहीं होगा, and zygote will become morula. Morula will become blastula. Blastula will become gastrula. Gastrula will do implantation. याद है gastrula implant करता है? कौन से लेयर में implantation होता है?
Endometrium.
Endometrium.
Implantation takes place in endometrium. Which hormone will maintain the endometrium?
Progesterone.
Progesterone.
Who is secreting progesterone?
Corpus
Corpus
luteum.
luteum.
तो what will happen अगर progesterone कम हो गया तो?
Endometrium will.
Endometrium
Implantation won't take place.
degenerate. Endometrium rupture हो जाएगा तो zygote will abort. Zygote abort हो जाएगा, menstruation हो जाएगा. तो अगर fertilization हुआ, zygote बना, zygote forms morula, morula forms blastula, blastula does implantation. तो एंडोमेट्रियम में याद है कोरियोनिक विलाय बनते हैं, कोरियोनिक विलाय डू इम्प्लांटेशन, एंड कोरियोनिक विलाय इम्प्लांट करते हैं तो एंडोमेट्रियम हैज टू रिमेन इंटैक्ट. Who will make the endometrium intact? Progesterone. Progesterone will make the endometrium intact. Who will secrete progesterone?
Corpus
Corpus
luteum.
luteum.
So can corpus luteum degenerate? Can corpus luteum degenerate?
No.
No.
I accidentally.
No. Otherwise progesterone secretion बंद हो जाएगा, and progesterone बंद हो जाएगा तो endometrium rupture हो जाएगा, and zygote with endometrium will go out, baby will abort. So what will happen if fertilization takes place? Corpus luteum will persist. Corpus luteum will remain as it is. But suppose ovulation takes place and egg goes into the fallopian tube and egg does not get fertilized. Egg fertilized नहीं होता है. Then unfertilized egg goes into the uterus और uterus में unfertilized egg है. Now, will unfertilized egg do implantation?
No.
No.
नहीं करेगा. So now you don't require endometrium क्योंकि unfertilized egg तो implant नहीं करने वाला है. Then the corpus luteum will shrink to form a dead tissue. Corpus luteum will shrink into a dead tissue called as corpus albicans. What is the dead tissue called as? Corpus albicans. And with that, one ovarian cycle will end.
So you are inaudible.
So you're not audible.
You could type your message in the chat box and we can read it.